if I was to just use this wall as is, right, put schach here and the schach up here, the fact that the sun gets in through the hole doesn't matter. We consider it all connected. Okay? Now, depending on how much schach there, it depends on how far apart you can get it. Certainly if it's within 3 tvachim, so you're all good. Even if it's more than 3 tvachim, but you have a significant amount of schach, then you can have... Okay. Take this away. Fine. Now, how close to the wall does the schach have to be? If you're building a, say, this following case over here, I had a brick wall. Let's see, over here. Commander Brin's house. He's got a brick wall here, another wall here, another wall here. He's got 3 walls. Beautiful, solid brick walls. But you can never get the walls underneath the schach. It's a 3-story building. Yeah? He ended up building a frame in the middle, and the schach is me on it. So the schach's not over the wall. Is that okay? So the answer is, if the schach is within 3 tvachim from the wall, you're good. Again, we treat it like it's connected.
Even if the walls are over 20 feet? I mean,
it doesn't matter. It matters what the schach is.
But then you're going to have the tzel, the shade is coming
doesn't matter.
away.
Doesn't matter. It says bein shnei harib. It's perfectly okay.
Yeah,
okay, so that's shnei harib. No? It's fine. Okay, as long as the wall is, as long as it's within 3 tvachim of the wall, it's considered connected. Now, would I sit under there? Not necessarily. Because at that point, I don't have any schach. But is it kosher? It is considered kosher. It is considered kosher over there, right? I don't look at it as if it's missing a wall.
So how the schach can be
how can it be 3 tvachim away?
You build a
Let's
frame.
say you build a frame, not all the way up to the wall. Let's say you don't want to touch the wall. He's afraid of touching the wall. The people from the building are makbid, so he keeps it far away. How close can you get it? How far away can you get it, really? You get it within 3 tvachim. As long as you get it within the schach within 3 tvachim, you're good. Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, you're building your own frame. You don't use the wall.
Yeah. No, this wall is the wall. If you were building a frame,
How you
built a frame. The way he built a frame was he just put up a 2x4 over here, 2x4 over here, put a piece across the top, so he can hang up the schach. But there's no wall. He didn't make any walls.
No, the walls were.
He used the brick walls.
Yeah.
But the schach is not going to go over the wall. But what we're saying is it doesn't make a difference. The schach doesn't need to go over the wall. It just needs to be close to the wall.
So between houses, basically, you can do that.
Yeah, that's great. You can use the side of your house. Meaning you don't have to nail the schach into the wall if you're doing it up against your house. Right? As long as it's near the wall, you're good.
Now you give me that idea.
Okay. Don't make any holes in your wall. Okay. Now, let's say I have a place in the middle of my sukkah that has, a big airspace. Okay, so let's pretend I was putting, let's say it's a sukkah like this, and I was putting my schach, actually we can actually do it. Let's put this piece over here. I put some schach over here. I put some schach over here. And then I have a big airspace in the middle. So if the place where the space of air is 3 tvachim wide, then I run into trouble. If it's less than 3 tvachim wide, I consider it like it's connected, for all intents and purposes, and it doesn't pass with it. Would I sit under there? Maybe not. Right? It depends. If it's smaller, if it's not 3 by 3 tvachim squares, then I would sit under there. If I have something that's possible for schach, like I have a metal board, a metal sheet or something, or I have a support beam, something like that, so then, then only if it's 4 tvachim wide would it be a problem. Right? Why? What's the difference? 3 is more nicker. 3 is clearer that there's something else there. Right? If it's something that's solid, just not kosher for schach, so then I say that I need 4 tvachim before it's a problem. Now, in this case, if I were to put something that was possible, or I leave an airspace, what I effectively do is I cut my sukkah in half. I have my sukkah over here that's kosher, well, not necessarily kosher, and I have my sukkah over here. In this case, with only 3 walls, I'm going to have a big problem. Because now I don't have 3 walls. I have 1 wall, 2 walls up to here, and then I have, over here, also 2 walls. I could really make my sukkah possible. If I turn it the other way, if I have some of it over here, and some over here, the back half of it would be fine. The front half of it would be a problem. Because the front half only has 2 walls. So depending how you do it. You have best is to make sure you don't have any spaces. And you
The
have
best way is to call it the rabbi sukkah.
No, just make it real. It's not that big a deal.
So, let me ask a question.
לכן אתם צריכים ללמוד כדי לדעת איך לעשות.
Yeah.
That makes your closer.
עושים וכל אחד תבוא
What about
תתן
I thought any piece
אתה
of
הספקת,
metal
אבל זה
that
כל הרעיון,
touches
שבן אדם ידע את הדברים
Which means like,
היסודיים האלה.
for example, when you have a screw.
זה לא פשוט.
No, the screws are not in this. We'll get to that right next.
I got
Okay.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Let's say we're sitting for dinner in the sukkah.
Yeah.
Erev Chag. We're sitting in the dinner. We finish the kiddush, we finish everything, we start to eat the meal. All of a sudden, we get rain. Is it possible to cover the schach with plastic?
Yes, that's the last thing I was talking about. We'll get back to that. It'll keep you to the end.
I'm sorry.
You're leaving? No, the
No,
answer is yes.
no. I just have to use the bathroom.
Okay. So, okay. Now, one of the most practical halachas for today, which everybody runs into, is what happens if your sukkah is under a tree. It's a very practical problem. I don't know what the houses are here, but in Norfolk, it's where I am. We don't have much space, and there are a lot of people whose sukkahs are very high up against trees. If the tree goes very tall, it can be difficult to trim. Do you have to call tree service, right, to have your whole tree trimmed down? So it's not so simple. So the basic rule is like this: you don't want to put your sukkah underneath the tree, even if the tree doesn't have that much shade. At the end of the day, it's pasul schach. And the Chachila try to keep it, if you have no choice, ask your Rav. But, right, he'll answer your questions, and there are ways to get around it. But, if you're under a tree, even if there's even if the tree doesn't provide so much shade, you could still have problems with Chachila. So we try not to have it underneath the tree. What situation could you have where you could have a tree? Is as follows. Over here. Look at this case. What do I have in this case? I have in this case two things. I have pasul schach and I have kosher schach. Now the picture doesn't show up very good on the projector, but let's go back. Take a look over here.
You want me to dim the light?
Okay, I think we need to dim the light.
You need to dim the lights?
You can't see it.
That's right.
Got it.
זה רק מקום להומלס.
See if it helps. Okay, much better.
לא?
As you can see over here, we have a bush. We have a bush growing, and we have the bush growing up over. We also broke off branches off a tree, and we mixed it together. So the halacha is that if you mix it together, and you have majority, you have rov kosher schach, and then it's okay. But only because it's not nicker, you don't recognize it, you don't see the pasul schach. If you have, if it's when you have a tree above, so it's very clear what's what. Or you can do like this also. Over here, we have our tree that's attached, and we use bamboo for the rest. Right? I can see what's what. You're not hiding it. I know exactly what's attached, what's not. So in that case, you can have problems. I'm pretty sure in this case you're going to have problems. It has to be that I can't find it. So if I have a tree that's up on top, you can find it. The best is to avoid having a tree. Okay? We'll get to overhangs in a minute. Now, if I have this case, and this happens all the time in Queens, people have grapevines and they have gourds, that sort of thing, growing over trellises. Can I use that? Actually, if you turn it off for 1 second. 1 second, 1 second.
It's better off. It's better.
Over here, just one more picture. One more picture they can see.
שאנחנו נדליק נרות.
Sorry.
I have a grapevine on my sukkah.
Yeah. So over here, next door to the red porch, they have a trellis over here, and underneath they have chairs and tables around the fence, and they have this plant growing up over the whole thing. That's pasul schach. It's still attached to the ground. If I wanted to use that, I would have to cut it off. But again, that's not enough, because that schach was pasul. I would have to pick up each part of it and put it back down again. So you don't have to rip off the whole thing. You just go underneath and you push. You push off and let it down. It's not that big a deal.
Well, no, but the grapes just go around the whole wire thing that I have, you know what I mean?
Right, you don't want to do the grapes. What do you want to kill your grapevine for? So good, so it's not relevant anyway. The only place you might want to do this if you have gourds, because the gourds you can have to replant every year anyways. Okay? But, fine, so we can have the lights. Thank you.
נאור, תגיד לרב את הדוגמה שהוא הביא, שיש לו ענבים בתוך הסוכה והוא עושה מזה סכך.
So can you use the grapes anyways?
Use the
the
It's
whole
possible.
time I have the grapes, they climb over like the roof.
Right, so it's a problem.
לא,
If
זה
there's
מחובר
no
לאדמה,
catch,
אתה
it's a
צריך
problem.
לחתוך.
Rabbi, it's not problem, it's possible.
It's possible, yeah. Okay. Possible. Make a difference. Start again. Okay.
אל תעשו לו עין בבקשה, חבר'ה.
Fine. So let's say I have it growing over like this, right? Or so again, I said we'd have to cut it off. Okay. Now, just one more thing about schach before we get to construction materials. I was down in Miami, staying at a friend's house. He had rented a house from someone, and he was away for the Chag. I stayed in his house. In the back there was a sukkah, and it had palm branches on top. I was there all year round. Can I use it? Right? So since it was made for shade, yes, it's fine. But the chachila, what you should do, if you're going to have a sukkah, you can build it any time of the year, but the chachila, you should say you're making it for the Chag. Right? Okay, if you're putting something to dry, again you'd have to pick up everything and restart again. So, as long as it's made for the shade. Okay. Let's talk about construction materials, using 2x4s. So, I was very happy to find this. I found this log across the street from Torres Chaim, and I got my chainsaw, and I cut this out, and it makes a beautiful piece of stock, and there you go. No rain, no nothing, right? Nice and solid, right? Is it a kli? It's definitely not a kli. It's just a piece of tree, right? So there's nothing wrong with it. What's the problem? What's it look like? The stars, you don't need to see. It's a nice thing that you should be able to have the stars. Like, I feel that you have the stars. If you can't see the stars, it doesn't make a puzzle. You have to have the rain come in. But even if you don't have the rain come in, it's not so simple that it would be possible. It's worse if the rain doesn't make it in. But let's say you have a bunch of boards and the rain can't get in. What's the problem? What does this look like? A house. There's a house. This is how they built their houses in the old days. Getting trunks this wide
No,
is not
שלא
a
רואים
big
את
deal. They
הכוכבים.
didn't have plywood.
No.
This is how they built their houses.
זה לא קריטי.
אה. אם לא רואים את הכוכבים, אז סם ארעי, זה כמו ארעי כאילו. זה סם קבע, זה לא כמו ארעי. נאור, תסביר לו שאם לא רואים את הכוכבים, זה כמו...
Is that temporary? You can't see the stars?
If you cannot see the stars, it
It
means
depends. Listen, to use branches with leaves, it's possible you may not see the stars. It's still, it's not kept up. In branches, with leaves, are going to fall off. It depends. Shulchan Aruch
Yeah,
says that
double-
really you should be able to see the stars. If you don't see the stars, it's not possible. If the rain doesn't make it in, you made it so thick, then we're running into bigger problems. That's a lot closer to being Diras Keva. If you're using straw,
זה הגמרא.
very often they would use straw, but make it like a thatched roof, and to the point where the rain doesn't come in. So even it's not so simple.
If I'm taking like 2x4,
We're getting to it in 2 seconds. Okay, so the Rabban goes there not to use these. If you go to the Mishnah, you take a look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that if the board is more than 4 tvachim wide, so then it's possible. This board is 5 tvachim wide. Okay, so it's definitely possible to use for stock. If it's from 3 to 4 tvachim, it's machloket, and if it's less than 3, everybody agrees it's okay. That's from the Mishnah.
So you actually can use strips of 3.
2x4.
No, so this one, I use these also. Just came out of a tree, came down in a hurricane in Queens, right? How wide is it? It's 1.5. Okay, should be fine. No? Should be fine. Okay. The problem is, at the end of the day, if I want to use 2x4s or 2x6s, so nowadays people do use that for roofing material. Now I wouldn't use a 2x4 for a roof, but I would use it for a deck. I would use it for a floor. And a friend of mine he come out of his dining room, he's got a deck. His bedroom's right above, and there's also a deck right above. You look up, what are you looking at? You're looking at 2x4s. People do use 2x4s or 2x6s for construction material. And the problem is that people are going to go into such a sukkah and say, why did I bother going through all the trouble? I went through all this trouble to build a sukkah, and I could have just stayed in my house and have the exact same thing.
Rabbi, how many?
That's it.
Tefach, how many inches it is?
This is 3.79. I marked off on here.
What is it?
3.79. I put
0.79 inches?
That's what I have on here.
Centimeters, is that 8?
It was 28.8.
28?
No, 28.8 is an ammo.
Yeah,
28.8 is an ammo.
that's 8.
28. That makes sense.
3.75 כפול תעשה 25.4
I'm getting confused. Whatever it is. Whatever it is. 6,
3.75
3.79 I had.
3.79? 3.79
No, that's not. 28.8 is not. No, that's 3 tvachim. 28.8 is 3 tvachim.
96 סנטימטר.
No. 28.8 I think is 3 tvachim. I'm confused. Whatever. Forget about it. Whatever it is.
20 what?
We get the measurements later.
We know Esed Tfachim is like equal almost to 80 centimeters.
We say about 40 inches is 10 tvachim. We say. About 40
Okay, how much
inches.
is
You're
40?
safe if you have 40 inches.
4 inches.
How is it
40 inches. You should be safe.
4 inches?
40.
40.
Yeah.
Should be safe.
time
40 inches.
25.4
If you have 40 inches, you should be safe for the 10 tvachim.
סנטימטר.
Oh, man.
Yeah? Okay.
באמת, 40 inch.
Okay, so it comes out at this point.
אינץ' זה 25.4 סנטימטר. מילימטר.
Okay, so it comes out at this point that we say not to use construction materials, even though a 2x4 is not a kli, right? It's just a chunk of wood, right? At the end of the day, it looks like a house. It looks like you're making a house, and people are going to say, "What's the difference? Why should I bother making a sukkah? I'm just going to sit in my house." Okay. The Mishnah does say if you have a board that's too wide like this and it's on the end of the sukkah, it's kosher.
But you're allowed to
But
sit
you're not allowed to sit under it. So what's pshat? Pshat is what we call dofen akuma. What? Dofen akuma, a wall that's bent over.
דופן עקומה.
I can treat this board not as part of the ceiling, but not part of the roof, but as part of the wall, bent over. Let's say my wall was bent over like this. So it's not a wall. It happens to bend. It's let's say it's part of an arc. So it's technically walls, so you can't sit under it. It's not a place of schach. But it's it's a fine wall. How far can I go? Arba amos. You can go 4 amos.
And
Okay,
you have
quite
4
a bit.
hours space and then 4 hours?
What?
Can you do
You
4
can so what happens? Now let's go to this case. If we have the lights again, please.
We can leave it off.
ג'אקו,
Just what you can see.
תדליק את האור.
Okay, so anybody knows this is Rabbi Arpaz's house. Over here, we have this wall in the back with the doors, and then he's got a wall on the side, and he's got a fence over here. So can we use the doors for a third wall? Be a great idea. The problem is that we have this overhang. So how deep is that overhang? If that overhang is less than 4 amos, now I don't know how far 4 amos is, because there's a opinion in the Gemara that says it's 5 tvachim, not 6, is an amma. And then it's not brought down to Shulchan Aruch. I totally have no clue how long it is. But Pastor Kaplan knows it. But if that works, I could go through my sukkah in like this. Right? I'm going to make, if this is less than 4 amos, I can build my sukkah right up against it. I consider this
Is the bend wall.
as the wall.
The bend wall.
It's bent wall. It's a bent wall. That's all it is. Okay?
You were saying something about the 2x4s not to use on the
Yeah, we're saying not to use the 2x4s.